Hey everybody, I figured it was time for me to give you a quick update on how we're getting on with the solar system since upgrading to 48 kilowatt hours of lithium iron phosphate batteries. It's been December and now January where we don't really get that much sun. We've not been able to get the batteries up to 100% charge since we upgraded to 48 kilowatt hours, which is, I guess, not unexpected given the fact that we don't get that much sunshine in December and January. The batteries are still showing a difference of state of charge. The new one's showing consistently about 10% higher state of charge than the other two, although the voltages on all of them are within a couple of millivolts of each other. So I guess I'm going to have to dig into the settings again to see if there's something I've missed. I've also bought a new MPPT solar charger for the 2 kilowatts of panels on the back of the garage. I'm not sure what happened to the old one, but it's not outputting any power. Now, I don't know if that's as a result of the bigger inverters pushing more charge into the batteries and backfeeding into the solar charge controller. I guess I need to do a bit of research before I connect the new one up. But if any of you guys have got any ideas out there, should I be putting a diode on the output of the smaller solar charge controller to prevent power going back into that charge controller from the solar inverter chargers? Drop a comment below, please, if you wouldn't mind. It'll help me out. We have used the generator a few times, although considerably less than we did last year. Now, is that because we've had more sunny days? Well, I don't think so. I just think it's because we've got better storage, so we're able to see out the darker days a lot easier than we could with the 25 kilowatt hours of lead acid that we had previously. I'm swithering about using the existing lead acid batteries on the two 8 kilowatt inverters because they don't look very good. The plates in them, I think, have been hammered by me not adjusting the charge current going into them when I first installed them. Lessons learned, expensive lessons learned, but hey, what can you do? So it's Friday, the 31st of January. It's been a week since I got home, and this is the first sunny day that we've had since I've been home. We had to run the generator yesterday for the first time since I was home. Ran for about 4 hours. Batteries were down to 28% this morning. Let's go and check on the inverter, see what's going on in the garage. So that's the primary battery bank. That's the secondary. And that's the third. As you can see, about 10% higher state of charge on the third battery bank compared to the secondary, and even higher than the primary. Now that could be because the cables running to the primary battery bank are slightly longer than the ones running to the secondary and the third one. So far these batteries have worked flawlessly, no fault codes reported, so they just run. Best thing I ever did was going to lithium iron phosphate, particularly as how the pricing has really come down considerably. That's the old charge controller for the 2 kilowatt panels on the back that stopped outputting power. Put this one on Amazon. I'm going to hook that one up, but I need your input on whether I need to put a diode in line before I hook it up. I was planning on reusing these lead acid when I put the 8 kilowatt system in place for the pool, pump and jacuzzi, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get another 16 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate bank. I might use 6 of these for the inverter in the pump house that supplies the Starlink and all the switches. Now, something else I've noticed is since installing the two 6 kilowatt inverters, I've never seen more than 6.5 kilowatts coming in from the 12 kilowatts of panels on the roof. Now, I don't know if that's as a result of the inverter settings limiting the amount of charge going into the battery bank. I'm going to do a test a little bit later when the sun gets a bit higher, and I'm going to run the borehole pump and see if that forces the input to go higher. Well, that didn't work.
but I think it's more to do with the fact that there's not enough solar coming in. I would have expected the incoming solar on the yellow graph to increase as we increased the load, but it didn't move.
Right, so I think I've figured out what the problem is. I need to change the battery settings on the inverters. I saw when looking through the configuration earlier that PV is limited to maximum charge current, and currently the charge current is limited by the BMS setting, which is set up as a pylon tech, which limits the charge current to 50 amps. That's why I'm not seeing anything more than 6 kilowatts coming in on 12 kilowatts worth of panels. So let's give it a shot, see what happens. Now I've tried changing the settings remotely using Solar Assistant, but it says it's saving and doesn't save, so I'm going to have to do it on the actual inverter. So I've switched off the solar input to start with. Pylon Tech 57.6, that's fine. 57.6. State of charge 10%. Okay. Okay, now let's see if that gives us more input. It's not so bright. Now what we want to do is we want to see if by changing those settings, if it now allows more than 6 kilowatts to come in from 12 kilowatts worth of panels. I'll keep monitoring it during today. It's a bit cloudy. It's got that Bill Gates haze. So we'll see how we go and I'll report back shortly. Okay, so setting it to third-party lithium doesn't allow you to change the charge amperage. It keeps it set at 50 amps. I'm going to try going user setting and see if we can force it that way. Turn solar input off. I don't know if that's going to work. 50 amps again, what the hell? Aha. So that seems to have taken 70 amps. Let's see on the here. Yes. $70 amps, okay. So we would expect to see higher input on solar, but because it's like a white sort of haze, we're not seeing anything at the moment. So I'll keep watching it and let you know. Okay. So after a day of poking, prodding, changing configurations and doing everything I can, this is the conclusion that I've reached. The only way that I could get these inverters to charge higher than 50 amps was by going into the battery selection and selecting user. I was then able to go in and configure the charge current higher than 50 amps. I just went to 70 amps as a test, and that held. But then I noticed that the BMS communication signal was no longer flashing, which means that the BMS wasn't talking to the inverter. So the conclusion I've come up with is that the BMS is overriding any settings that I try and set up on the individual inverters. Now, because I've got two inverters that run in parallel, my understanding is that the BMS is talking to the primary inverter, seeing that it's got two inverters in parallel, and it's limiting the output current from each inverter to 50 amps, giving a total of a maximum of 100 amps. Am I right, or am I missing something? Really appreciate your input before I make a fool of myself and start chasing the battery manufacturer as well as the inverter manufacturer to understand what the hell's going on. So would really appreciate your input. Drop me a comment. Let me know if I'm barking up the wrong tree or if my understanding is correct. Or is it that because it's winter, there just isn't enough solar generation coming in to go higher than 6 kilowatt? I don't think that's the case, because on the old system with 8 kilowatts worth of panels on the roof, around about the same time of year last year,
I was seeing up to 8 kilowatts coming in on PV. Bit of a head scratcher. I've just flashed on a conversation I had a while ago with the rep from the battery manufacturer. I was asking him, how do I get these things to charge at 200 amps? He says, no, we don't recommend charging higher than 100 amps. So maybe that's why it won't allow me to go higher than 50 amps. But that seems crazy. If we've got full sunshine and we've got short days in winter, and I've got 3 batteries in parallel, surely we should be able to charge them at more than 100 amps. Disappointing if that's the case, to be honest, because on a full day of sun, I would expect to be able to pump them full in a shorter period of time in winter, therefore being able to see through long dark days for longer. What am I missing?
Okay, a quick update. Just before I was ready to finalize this video and get it uploaded, Andy sent me some great news. Had 2 days of glorious sunshine, and the battery banks all seem to have balanced, so they all were showing the same state of charge. Bank 1, 2 and 3 all got up to 98.2% state of charge. And then the next day she sent me some more video after we drained the batteries overnight, and they all within a few volts, millivolts of each other, and the state of charge is pretty much the same. So you guys were right. I needed to stop panicking and just get them all up to 100% state of charge to allow them to balance and equalize. So happy about that. Just need to check when we get more sunlight if we're able to generate more than 6.5-7 kilowatt hours of solar coming in. So any nagging doubts I might have had about these batteries completely dispelled. I got to be honest, I'm really glad I went for them. At the price, it was a no-brainer, and the performance that I've seen out of them over the last 3 odd months now, it'd be silly not to seriously take a look at the Seplos battery kits. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe out there. Ciao.